On to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the Opposition View Show, where we look ahead to our next game and interview and supporter of one of our upcoming opponents. Obviously, our next game is Goodison against Leeds United, so we have turned to All Leeds TV, and in particular, Oscar. Welcome to the show, Oscar. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. I mean, it's deja vu, isn't it, mate? We're involved in this relegation battle again, and I miss the days of mid-table mediocrity and boredom because it's a lot better than this. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, we were getting a bit bored, but it's like nice of the club to keep us on our toes a little bit. So.
Yeah, there's something to play for. Right to the last second of the season. It's not great. It's not ideal, but yeah, mate, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Trying not to think of Leeds United as much as I can because it just annoys me at this
Same
moment in
here,
time.
mate. Yeah, same here. Obviously it's been a bit of a difficult season, but obviously, what's your thoughts on Leeds as a side this season? Having just stayed up by the skin of our teeth last season, what's your take on this season? How it's gone so far?
It's been pretty similar pattern-wise. I think we started pretty well. First 3 games, we took 7 points, and if anything, that's been really, really useful to us now because without that, would be where Southampton are essentially. I mean, there's talent in the squad. I do believe there's enough talent to stay up. There's no question of that for me. But yeah, I think we just stuck by Jesse Marsh for too long, in all honesty. Jesse Marsh was a nice guy, but ultimately it was pretty obvious early in the season this wasn't going to work. It was always going to be a season of progression in that lot, and there was going to be ups and downs, but it was pretty obvious early doors that things weren't going right after the sort of first 8 or 10 games. We stuck with it beyond the World Cup, and to be honest, the performances since the World Cup have been mostly pretty poor, really. It has been pretty dreadful. Can't really score goals at this moment in time, and that's been a strength all season. Yeah, so it's not ideal at this moment in time, to say the least. In terms of, I think we've got enough talent in this team. It is a team that I'm still fully behind, but we need a direction now. We need, not as necessarily a big name, but we need someone to guide us through this really tough time, because if we can stay up this season, I genuinely do think we can kick on this time. I think we've got the foundations. Last season was all built around Rafinha. It was as simple as that, really. This season we've got 3 or 4 really good players going forward, backed up by good players across the team. The recruitment's been good, but tactically it just hasn't been good enough at all. It's been far too easy to play against us, and the players have almost been scapegoated a little bit at times.
Yeah, well, the next question I was going to ask you was it the right decision to sack March? And I think you've effectively answered it anyway. They're saying that the time was right to get rid of him. But obviously, at the moment, you're saying the recruitment's quite good. The players you've brought in have been quite good. It's all about the tactics and the next move on the managerial front. How are you feeling about the current managerial situation, the hunt for a new manager? Because it's been a bit dragged out. I was quite nervous going into this game, thinking that you guys would have a new manager in for this, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I highly doubt it. I think it will be Michael Skubala in charge for his third game as an interim. Listen, it's been frustrating, and I think where we are in this table at this moment in time, it was always going to be frustrating. I think Everton have had similar problems to ourselves. In terms of Sean Dyche wasn't necessarily a first choice. I still rate that appointment, by the way. But again, we couldn't get our first choice. We couldn't get our second choice. We couldn't get our third choice by the looks of things. So we are, I think, taking our time a little bit, because we don't want to jump in with 2 feet, because if we do get the wrong appointment and somehow stay up, we're back in this position again. It's going to keep going round and round and round in circles. So I think we have got to get this one right. But yeah, as you said, mate, I think recruitment's been good in general. In terms of the quality of play we're brought in, there's still areas of the pitch that we haven't addressed, like in terms of left back and other positions like that, where we have still lacked a bit of depth and quality as a whole. But yeah, I think it is just about getting that right manager in place to place the team's strengths, and I think we will start to get results. But when you get to this stage of the season where it is really tense, you don't know what's going to happen, really. We looked at names like Arne Slot, Iriola from Vallecano. They're very much project managers, and it's difficult to bring them in midway through a season to play a totally different style of football when we're in the relegation battle, essentially. So I am starting to really fear for us, because the more games we allow to tick by, the more and more risks we're taking, and the further and further we're slipping away, really.
Yeah, I think my next question was going to be obviously I was going to ask you about Everton's new manager, Sean Dyche. You just said you think that's quite a good appointment. Obviously, before that, you mentioned that he was the second choice. The first choice was obviously your ex-manager, Marcelo Bielsa. Bit of a mad one, like you say. It's not the easy with it being a project more than anything that you don't really want to be taking on in the relegation battle. But would you consider going crawling back to Bielsa?
Yeah, I mean, it won't happen mid-season. I don't think. I think if Bielsa wanted a job mid-season, he would have took Everton. I think obviously there's rumours that Bielsa was happy to coach the under-23s for Everton, but I don't know how true that was. That rumour that he was happy to coach the under-23s to take the job in the summer. But no, I mean, listen, if we do stay up, it looks like potentially the San Francisco 49ers are going to take over the club full time after that in terms of ownership. Again, that's not decided as far as we know yet. If that did happen, it would represent a fresh start and potentially, listen, Bielsa was happy to go back to Bilbao last summer. He was only kind of pips to the post at the last minute on that one. So yeah, listen, it's an option. It is an option at this moment in time, but I don't think it's one that we'll make. I think it's one where I don't think we can. I think we've got to get someone full time now, really. I don't think we can wait till the summer, hope that Scubala keeps us up. I think we are going to have to make an appointment now, and that probably won't be for Bielsa for that reason.
Yeah, like I say, it's more of a project when you're dealing with someone like Bielsa. Um, Focusing on Everton, you mentioned Dyche being probably a good appointment. What's been your take on Everton's performances this season as an outsider looking in? Obviously, I think we've lost one and won one under the new manager, but prior to that, what was your take on our performances under Lampard?
Yeah, it's a weird one, really, because I thought at times you looked pretty decent, to be honest. I thought you looked solid at the back, and then it seemed to be around just before the World Cup, you started to concede goals. I think scoring goals has been a problem all season for you guys, because obviously Calvert-Lewin being injured, you haven't really recruited enough goals on the wings either. You have got good wingers, but maybe not enough goals on the wings or in the 10 position. So it feels like there is a lack of goals across the team, especially when Calvert-Lewin's not on the pitch. But defensively, I think there's the bones of a very good defence there, to be honest. I think Cody Tarkovsky is a good centre-back pairing. Mikolenko left back, Patterson right back, and that lot. I think that's a decent back four with some decent depth behind it as well. I think you have got clean sheets in you, which could be key in the relegation run-in. But yeah, I think ultimately, when you haven't got solidity, you're looking quite naive tactically under Lampard, and you can't score goals. I think ultimately Everton, again, I think a bit like Leeds, maybe waited a little bit too long before sacking Lampard. I think
We
really it's
definitely
something
agree with
that
you on that one as a
probably should have
fan
been.
base.
Didn't you lose 4-1 and 3-0 to Brett Bournemouth before the World Cup or something?
Yeah, in quick succession, one in the league
That
and
was the
one in
time
the
to do it for
League
me.
Cup.
Before the
Yeah,
World Cup. And then
yeah, we were gobsmacked, especially after we came back, and it got even worse after that. So I'm astonished. But yeah, your views are definitely echoed by the majority of our fan base in that
I
respect,
mean,
because we
that
know we should have
defeat,
done it sooner.
those defeats to Wolves and Southampton, they were bad ones, weren't they? Especially that Southampton one. Late on, 2-1 at home, losing both of those games at home. They were really bad ones for you guys.
Yeah, it's infuriating because we were confident. I think we, as a fan base, we were thinking if we'd have appointed Sean Dyche before Christmas, we'd have probably won at least one of those games.
Yeah. Oh, it's like it's Sean Dyche's speciality, these games, and something they should have said before. This type of game for Sean Dyche, a relegation 6-pointer at home. This was his bread and butter at Burnley. I'm panicking going into this game because it's got a 1-0 set piece Sean Dyche masterclass written all over it for me.
Well, I was obviously nervous of the new manager bounce with you guys, but that doesn't look like we said like it's going to be the case. So coming down to maybe the potential quality of the players you've got, who's been the best and worst player for you guys this season?
The best, I think the general consensus would be Tyler Adams has been our best player this season in
Hmm.
midfield. Had a really strong World Cup as well. He's just been relentless for us, constantly 7, 8 out of 10 every single week. Listen, he doesn't do the mega flashy stuff on the ball, but ball winning, keeping the ball, keeping us ticking over. He does a superb job of that. Max Ferber as well, who's come in from Salzburg, has been absolutely outstanding. To be fair, he has improved us defensively as well. And yeah, he's been a man of the match contender every single time he's played. But over the season, body of work, body of games, it has to be Tyler Adams. Worst player. Yeah, I mean, there hasn't really been anyone who's been outrageously bad, to be honest with you, mate. I think last season it was kind of a different story where there was a lot of really, really poor performers, but it had to be someone in the back line, to be honest, who's kind of really struggled. I mean, Diego Llorente has gone on to Roma in January. He was having a pretty terrible season when he did play. Rasmus Christensen, it hasn't quite worked out for yet, but it feels a bit harsh saying he's been our worst player. I'll be honest, mate, no one really stands out in that regard. I think that the back line, other than Verber as a whole, has been pretty poor, to be honest, performance-wise.
So it's more of a collective issue that you guys are having at the back than a
Yeah, I mean, we
personnel
don't
problem.
concede. Last season, we conceded a lot of our goals through individual mistakes. This season, we conceded the same goal every single game, and that points more to me at collectively, tactically, it's a problem rather than the individuals. Listen, they're not elite defenders that we've got. They're not going to get into Champions League starting 11s, but I think they were made to look worse because basically we defend the pitch. Say this is the pitch here. We defend it like that. We're so narrow defensively and we're so narrow attacking wise. That has improved under Skubala, to be fair, but as a collective, the back line has really struggled this season.
That in mind, obviously, we're going to look at the danger players for either side. Who do you think Everton's most dangerous player will be as far as like troubling the Leeds defence?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, Damari Gray always tends to play well against us. Whether it's for Leicester, Birmingham, Everton, he has always tended to play pretty well against us and played well last season when we played. Yeah, it's an interesting one, really. I think Alex Iwobi, I really like in midfield. I think he's really kicked on. Anana, again, is someone who I thought, wow, that was a real smart signing at the time for Everton. And I think he's going to, unfortunately for you guys, if you do go on to have to sell him, you're going to at least double your profit on him pretty easily. I'd
I'll guess, yeah. He's been one of our better ones.
I think for me, whenever I've seen him, obviously you probably will disagree. I've seen Everton week in, week out. Maybe I've just seen his best games, but he seems to be absolutely class for you guys compared to like the rest of the team. He seems to really stand out to me. So I'd probably say I like your midfield in general, to be honest. When you have got that fully fit main starting midfield three of Idrissa Gana Gueye, Anana, Iwobi, I really rate it, to be fair. Obviously, Dyche tends to be more sort of 4-4-2 or 4-4-1-1. So he doesn't quite play midfield three in the same way. But yeah, I'd still probably say on that Anana, to be honest. I think I do really rate him. But Tarkovsky's got to be one on set pieces as well. That's going to be a big problem for us trying to pick him up on set pieces at and Cody at the weekend.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, who's the player you think Everton will probably need to keep their eye on as far as who's your biggest threat?
Yeah, I think obviously when I talk about star performers, I think if you go from pound for pound, because he hasn't played that many minutes over the whole season, but Wilfred Gnonto has been absolutely unbelievable for us, to be totally honest with you. He hasn't played a lot of minutes. He would be up there in the big three alongside Adams and Verber, but certainly from an attacking sense, he does cause problems. Even if we lose games, he is causing problems pretty much week in, week out. So it'll be really interesting to see him how he does against a Sean Dyche team, where it's going to be a little bit more compact. It is going to be a bit more physical than what it has been last couple of games. But if we are to win the game, Wilfred Gnonto will have to be absolutely on it for me. And to be fair, he normally is.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing you mentioned about our back four that you like the lot of Patterson is injured, and it'll probably be a very old James Coleman on his side, so that you could really hurt us there.
Yeah, I mean, Wilfred Gnonto mainly plays on the left. He can play on the right, but he does tend to play on the left for us at this moment in time. So that is potentially an area that we can exploit Everton. But to be fair, we said this about Seamus Coleman last time we went to Goodison. He's sticking it in the back of the net like 2 minutes into the game. He played really well against us last season. But obviously, I know over the season, he over the last couple of years, he isn't the same player he was. But certainly from a leadership point of view, he's a type of player you like to have. And I think he's similar to Luke Ayling for us. He probably is past his best at this point, but you can't underestimate the leadership and experience he brings to that Everton team, especially in the relegation battle. So I'm not going to get too carried away because I think Coleman going forward is still a relatively decent player. So I won't get too carried away with that one, mate.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in that respect. It's a bit of a I think that's what a lot of our fans have identified. And speaking to them, like that's what they think might bully them. So you're definitely probably right to mention Nonto as one of your biggest attacking threats. In terms of the whole team, what's your sort of starting 11? Can you imagine Leeds will
So
go with?
I mean, we have kept it pretty constant, to be fair, in the first two games under Skubala. So I'd imagine it'll be a 4-2-3-1. We have played that all season in general. Well, every single game actually play 4-2-3-1. So it'll be Meslier in goal. Right back will be Luke Ayling at the four, Robin Koch, Max Ferber, and Junior Firpo at left back. In midfield, it will likely be Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie. On the right, if he's fit, it will be Luis Sinisterra. If not, probably Crescencio Somerville, who's again had a really strong season, being overshadowed a little bit by Willie Nonto, but he has been very good himself. Jack Harrison probably in the 10 role, Wilfred Nonto himself on the left, and up top, probably Patrick Bamford in this game. So we have got injuries. That isn't our main starting 11, but it's still a decent starting 11, I'd say that much. The depth outside of it is being seriously tested, though. We probably haven't got 5 subs that we can make in the game, to be honest.
We're in a similar position ourselves. I think our attacks, obviously Calvert-Lewin's still missing, and that's been a massive problem for us the whole season. And that we haven't brought a striker in as if you've not noticed before a lot of the home games recently, and I think this one will be no different. There's some protests and a lot of that about the board, and a lot of that's to do with the incompetence of the board and bringing the failure to bring a striker in, even though the owner said we'll get a striker, and then he didn't
Yeah,
deliver that. So I think there's a lot of anger about that, and obviously Calvert Lewin is injured now, so it's coming to pass what the fans were angry about. So it's
it is a shambles that, two clubs of this size, listen, I know we're quite newly back into the Premier League, but to be 2 out of the 3 seasons now we've been back. We've done nothing but struggle. And the first season back, we finished 9th. And obviously, you guys were around us in that first season back for Leeds. 2020, 2021, I think you finished just below us. You about 10th, I think.
I think we were below his own goal difference or something.
Yeah. So we both had really good pretty decent seasons, 2 years ago. And now we're being both involved in back-to-back relegation battles, countless managers, and you feel like it's going to happen time and time again. I don't know about you, mate. It just feels like it's going to keep happening this until there's a big change at the top.
Someone sorts it out, basically. Yeah,
Yeah, it's whether it's the manager, whether it's the board, something has to be sorted out. And I just think 2 clubs of this size to be involved in back-to-back relegation battles at the same time is a poor, sorry state of affairs. To be totally honest with you, mate.
yeah. Well, the only hope is that we can maybe get out of it and see what happens after that. But it's again, no, there's no transfer window now till June, so whatever happens, will have to happen then. That's probably why the fans are upset about what's going on. But our team, obviously, Calvert Lewin will be missing. I couldn't tell you for the life of me what he's going to do up front because he's going to have to try something a bit different. Like I say, Coleman will be in for Patterson. The rest of it, you've mentioned Tarkowski, Cody, Mikalenko will be the defence. It'll probably be Anana, Iwobi, and Idrissa Gay, like you say, in the middle, and it'll probably be Damari Gray and Dwight McNeil. That's if Damari Gray isn't put in the makeshift striker role, which he sometimes gets subjected to
Yeah,
because of Calvert Lewin being injured.
I mean, would Morpay possibly start? Because Morpay, listen, I know he's been pretty poor for you guys. From what I can gather, I think he has really struggled. I think it was a weird signing in the first place, to be honest. But he has got a really good record against us, and he has a. Let's just say Leeds fans and Neil Morpay haven't exactly seen eye to eye in the last couple of years.
You can copy and paste every other team that he doesn't play for as fans into
Yeah,
that bracket
he's
because he's a little wind-up merchant, isn't he? But to be honest, he's only winding people up when he's a threat, and he hasn't been a threat for us for the majority of the season. He has struggled a lot since he's come here.
yeah, I just don't think it ever really made sense. I think when you bring a striker to play, in an Everton team, I think they've got to be able to hold the ball up and be physical as well. I think all the great Everton number 9s are being physical, being able to, really put themselves about. I just don't think Neil Morpay's that type of striker. But listen, his record against Leeds is ridiculously good, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I'm not confident that he'll score. He's only scored once all season, so yeah, but I'm not sure whether he'll start or whether we will see him at some stage, whether it's from the start or from the bench. But we'll see if he can break his duck. I'm not
He's
completely,
probably
to
someone
be
who
honest.
I think if you played him and Calvert-Lewin up top together, that could work a lot better. I do
Yeah, but
think.
you need Calvert-Lewin to be fit for
Yeah,
that,
you
though.
need him to be fit, don't you? That's a big if. I mean, we have a similar issue with Patrick Bamford. When we have Patrick Bamford in the team in general, we do look better. And listen, we have looked better last couple of games with Patrick Bamford in there. And I think it's a similar story with Everton with Calvert-Lewin. We just can't keep them fit. I think the big thing is 2 years ago, Calvert-Lewin was on fire, Bamford was on fire. Both teams were comfortably mid-table. Since that, both at the same time have just had injury after injury after injury and have probably
Yeah,
played about 15 games combined. It's probably since maybe a bit more than that, maybe about 20 games combined since the end of since the end of 2021.
yeah, it's been a difficult one, but yeah, I can't predict this one, but we'll finish up with the score predictions. What would you go with?
Do you want my head or my heart? What?
Whatever you want, mate.
My head says, to be totally honest with you, 1-0 Everton. Sean Dyche, masterclass, 1-0 set piece. Typical what he does in these types of games. You can't underestimate that experience in these types of games. So I am worried in that sense. My heart says, if we can score first, and I do think with the head as well, if we can score first, Leeds, I do think the game plays into our favour. It will turn the fans against the Everton team a little bit, because I know what Goodison's like. If you guys start well, it's a horrible place for an away team to play. But if Leeds can start well, it can work the other way as well. And it's like that at Ellen Road as well. So it's so important we score first on Saturday. Otherwise, it could be another one like last season where you guys are on a similarly poor run of form, but you really found those gears. And I think that was one of Lampard's first games as well last season. So I am worried about this one. I've been looking at this one for weeks and thinking, the thing is, mate, I always talk about these games as like clutch games. We haven't been clutch enough in these games. We dropped points against West Ham. We got beat by Leicester away. We haven't really beaten any of these teams around us, to be totally honest with you.
Neither have we, though. That's the interesting sort of thing to this one, is that
Yeah,
we've
no,
had a
that's
bad
true.
record against
But
who's
I do
around us.
think Dyche's bread and butter throughout his career has been these types of games. He's always found a way in these types of games. I don't think. Listen, I don't think it'll be a good football match at all on Saturday. To be honest, and I don't think either of us will care if we win the game. To be honest.
Now, I'll be honest. My prediction's going to be a big, horrible 0-0.
Yeah, I can see that as well. To be honest, I can see that.
I'm not completely confident we'll score, but I'm confident that we might keep a clean sheet. So yeah, I'm going to say, like you say, a horrible football match and a horrible result, 0-0.
Oh,
Um,
I.
yeah, we'll finish up with a couple of other questions just before we finish. First of all, on the league as a whole, who do you think's going to win the league this season?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think probably Man City at this point. I think that little bit of experience will tell. The fact they've got Arsenal to play at home as well. I still think it's going to go down to the wire. I don't think City will run away with it. I still think City will slip up at times, but that little bit of experience is starting to tell with Arsenal now. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus being injured. You look at what the difference of the Arsenal team without Thomas Partey in there as well. They just don't look like the same team in midfield. The whole midfield doesn't look the right in terms of balance. I'll go with Man City. There's slightly less questions on Man City.
Yeah, I think for me, I was going to say City as well, especially we're recording this a day or so after the game where City have just gone to the Emirates and won. I think Man City, I think,
It's
like you say,
shifted the momentum, hasn't it?
that,
That game.
that the
I'd have said
momentum,
Arsenal before that game, to be honest, but it has shifted the momentum a lot.
but also I just think, like you say, City have got a bit more experience in these situations and some probably the best squad I think in the league. So I think that might over the course of it just tell.
Yeah, I think so. I think the big telling thing for me was that in a big game like that, KDB and Haaland stood up. And I think, listen, I do rate the likes of Odegaard, Saka and that lot, but they didn't step up in the same way. They're not quite at that level yet. I think they might be, in the next couple of years, but they're
Soon,
not
yeah.
at that. KDB's in his prime, Haaland's approaching his prime. That's going to be a big difference maker, I think. And obviously Phil Foden, people like that are still to come back into the team as well. There's a lot of goals in that Man City team.
Certainly is. And finally, before we go, just off the topic, what's your go-to match day drink when you go to the match? What's your go-to drink if you go up to the bar? What would you order?
Probably at this moment in time, mate, Jaeger bombs. To be honest with you, I mean it is pretty grim.
Yourself
I am only
to
messing.
numb
I'm
it.
only messing. No, I'm just a pint for me. Pretty standard. Moretti, Peroni, anything like that. Whatever's on offer, mate. It's one of them. It's just whatever's on offer.
Anything to numb the pain of the upcoming 90
Pretty
minutes.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be, right? I used to be under Bielsa in that lot the first couple of years. It was like you didn't even want to drink before the game because you wanted to be totally sober because the game, we were playing such entertaining stuff. You wanted to be totally sober to fully appreciate it. But now it's back to what it was in the old days. It's just like the football's almost like secondary. We haven't enjoyed it. We haven't enjoyed watching Leeds for 2 years now.
Well, yeah, I know how that feels, put it that way. But yeah, definitely. I think come Saturday we'll all be having a couple of strong ones and trying to, like you say, keep ourselves as numb as possible to what we're about to be subjected to. Like I say, I predicted the 0-0, and I'll uh, I'll definitely need a couple of pints to get me through a 0-0.
Listen, I've never watched us play a Sean Dyche team, and it's been a pretty game. And you can go back to the Championship, go back to the early days in the Prem. It's never been a pretty game between us and Sean Dyche. And listen, I rate Sean Dyche the manager a lot. He understands. He's just brilliant at picking out weaknesses in the opposition. He will know what to target in this Leeds team. And set pieces wise as well, that's going to be a big, big problem for us.
Yeah, we'll see anyway. But well, I say best of luck for the rest of the season, but just not for Saturday.
Yeah, same, mate. Same. Listen, I was delighted Everton stayed up last season. Listen, you guys stayed up about a couple of days before us. We stayed up after that. I was buzzing that obviously we stayed up way more than anything, but I was happy Everton stayed up. I thought your fans were absolutely outstanding back end of the season, and ultimately were the difference makers really in terms of keeping you guys up because it was looking grim. Those first 2/3 of the season. And yeah, same this season as well. You don't want to see an Everton or Leeds get relegated. I think in terms of atmosphere at home, I think we really did bring something to the league. I think the fact you got 2 historic grounds there, not soulless corporate bowls and that lot. Yeah, we're not seeing that. I know you guys are moving, but I do like the ground you're moving into. It doesn't feel like your standard kind of like new stadium. It's got a bit of a unique design to it.
It's square for starters.
Well, the fact it's in the docks as well, I quite like that as well. It's still in the heart of Liverpool, if you know what I mean. It's not like, in terms of it's not just off the motorway kind of thing. You kind of know what I mean. It's but I still think you'll keep the atmosphere there. But yeah, it would be sad to see one of the 2 teams relegated. But ultimately, to be totally honest with you, mate, the way things are going, it's probable, that one of us is going to go down. If we're being totally honest, it's probably more likely to be us at this moment in time, Leeds, because we haven't got a manager in place. But ultimately, you're looking at other teams that could get dragged into it. Leicester are probably out of it now. Villa are well out of it. Palace are probably too far away to drag into it. Forest have got really good momentum since the World Cup. You're struggling then. Wolves are kind of out of it. You're struggling then to kind of drag other teams into it. So, the reality is this is a crucial game. And from a Leeds point of view, not having a manager in place, it's one that I really fear, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, well, same goes for me. So we'll see what happens anyway. We'll leave it at this. Leave it at that anyway. Thanks for joining us on the show, Oscar, and thanks to everyone else for tuning in. Let us know how you're feeling going into the game. Give us your predictions. Any Leeds fans tuning in as well, give us your insight as well. Keep all the comments coming in. Give this a like and subscribe for more content. Also, tune into All Leeds TV. I'm sure there'll be plenty more. Lots of content on there as well. That'll be full of ups and downs as the season goes on. It's safe to say we'll be having the same here. So, yeah, like I say, subscribe to both channels. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching on the Toffee Blues.